This is On the Tee with HMB, and I'm DJ Jones, Major Haversham's Lieutenant for Social Media, coming to you from the shores of County Clare, Ireland, and the Trump Doonbeg Resort. Join us as we head inside for a conversation with General Manager Joe Russell to discover the golf and good life on hand at this award-winning property. We hope you enjoy the listen. Well, here we are in the new members bar area at Trump Doonbeg, and I'm joined by General Manager Joe Russell. Joe, it's a very busy time around here. We might touch on that in a moment, but really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
So before we kind of dive into all things Doonbeg, tell me a little about yourself. How did you come to find yourself here?
Well, I'm a Tipperary native, which is the neighbouring county to County Clare. And for those of your viewers who might be interested in hurling, our Gaelic game, when it comes to hurling, Tipperary and Clare are arch rivals. In fact, this weekend there's a big game on which we're all going to attend, hopefully, and for me, I hope Tipperary beat Clare, but you never know, it's so tight in that particular game. But I was 10 years in London when I back in '87, I went to London for 10 years, and then came back and worked with the famed Jury's Hotel Group back in Dublin in '97. Met my wife in London. She was also in the business, and when our daughter was born, came back to Dublin, and then in 2002, the company Kiowa Partners from South Carolina came knocking on my door. So that was a big change coming from London to Dublin, and then I brought my wife down to Doonbeg with my children, and that was a whole new life for us down, coming from the city life down to rural West Clare, and I have to say, in terms of the quality of life, combining a career with a project such as this back in 2003, it's just been a fantastic journey so far.
Well, it's a fantastic place and a magnificent stretch of coastline. You've got a great view certainly every day to come to. For those who may be unfamiliar though, tell us, kind of give us the backstory, if you will, to Doonbeg.
Yeah, well, I'll take you back over 100 years if you don't mind, but we won't work year by year up along. But basically back in the late 1800s, the Scottish Black Watch Regiment, and they were the rulers of this land, at that time. Ireland was governed by England at that time, the English monarchy. And the Scottish Black Watch Regiment, who really brought golf into Ireland, they wanted to actually build a golf course on this particular site. But the West Clare Railway at that time did not run down to Doonbeg. It only ran as far as Lahinch. So in Lahinch, 126 years ago, that's where Lahinch came from. They opened up a fantastic golf course also. But Lahinch was 125 years old last year, and it's 126 years old this year. And almost 100 years later, in the late 80s, early 90s, the local community here were looking at Lahinch, they were looking around Ireland, and they were looking at the grey dunes at Doonbeg, 150 feet high, these dunes, and they were thinking, geez, we could have a great golf course here. And they got with the Shannon Development, who were the local regional development authority at that time. They proceeded to buy the options from 4 local farmers, and who still remain our friends and honorary members today. They bought the land off them, they bought the options of the land, and then they went and they sought a golf course developer, and that took a few years also. But they ended up with Kiowa Partners, which was Buddy Darby and Leonard Long, and they came over here, and Greg Norman was on board, and over a number of years they built this golf course here, and it was voted by Golf Digest Best New International Golf Course in 2003. It opened up in July 2002, and then in 2003 Best New International Golf Course. And I arrived in 2003. We got planning permission for the main lodge and associated facilities in January 2004. We started construction in April 2004, and we opened up in May 2006. And a phenomenal enterprise in terms of employment, in terms of economic impact to the local area, and local people are now in the tourism business. Absolutely fantastic. And straight away, in terms of the accommodation, in terms of the facilities, and in terms of the standards, my background is in the 5-star hotel business. And my objective was to combine a fantastic golf course with fantastic Irish hospitality, which we have here, with unrivaled facilities. I mean, our bedrooms, our suites are absolutely fantastic, the dining areas. So it's to combine everything to bring it together. And over the years, Not everything starts in 2006 absolutely perfect, but you know, we've continued to improve, to sharpen our act in terms of a number of areas, and I would like to think that, you know, in 2019 we've come a long way. Recession hit Ireland in 2008. That was a difficult period for everybody. Unfortunately, the two original owners had different plans, and they decided to go their separate ways, and there was that hiatus period then as to who's going to be the new owner. And thankfully in February 2014, Donald Trump walked in the door with his family in the Trump Organization. And that was on the back of tremendous storms that we had in 2014. And you know, there was a lot of damage caused to the golf course, and together with that, I think they saw that as a huge opportunity to bring in Dr. Martin Hawtrey. And what a man, an absolute gentleman. And I have to say, in my career of working with professionals and working with experts in their field, and just listening to how they view things, and you know, asking, I'm interested in golf also, so you know, I asked him, Martin, you know, what is your philosophy? And he said, you know, when you walk off the green, as you walk onto the next tee, I want that to be a beautiful surprise. And every day I play, I don't play every day, but every day I do play, you know, you walk onto the golf course and you look up that fairway and you see, holy smokes, this is just absolutely beautiful. And combine his expertise with our golf course superintendent, Scott Marr, and his team. A very passionate superintendent we have here, a young man who came over here in 2014 also. Found himself a wife in the meantime, so now we have him here, we have him anchored. But a fantastic young man who's up, you know, when we're all in bed in the morning, you know, getting ready to rise. Scott and his team are on the golf course, getting that golf course ready, getting the bunkers ready, making sure that the course setup is pristine every day. And given the challenges they face on the west coast of Ireland in terms of weather, what they produce on an annual basis in terms of that golf course is fantastic. And you know, when you think of all the superintendents on the west coast of Ireland, what a job they do. It's fantastic.
No doubt about it. And so you touched on Dr. Hawtrey coming in and sort of what necessitated that, which was I think a series of storms back in, you know, a number of years ago. Talk about some of the changes that he had to implement, and how have they been received since the course reopened?
Yeah, I mean, some of the greens were damaged seriously. So he relocated back green number 14. We had to create a new 14th hole. And he put that in the general area where the old 5 was, and he took the 5th green back, right behind what we call the hollow, and again a short par 4, but a tricky par 4 now in the wind. But I think the new 14 that he created with the lodge in the background, the ocean coming in off the right hand side, is really a trophy shot for Doonbeg. I did say to him, you know, do you have a signature hole? He said, all my holes are signature holes, Joe. And I like that too. As it relates to I think we probably have in Ireland on our first hole, in terms of that view in front of Trump's Bar and Restaurant, that view 566 yards down the first hole. I just think it's a fantastic, the amphitheatre then of the green behind. It's just dramatic, right? It's absolutely fantastic. Holes 2 and 17. Again, they're running parallel fairways. Again, he improved number 2. You can now see the green off the tee. There was a mound in front of the tee beforehand, so a blind shot. It's no longer blind, but it's still a tricky enough tee shot. And number 3, which was over beside a cottage in the past, he now took it over to the left-hand side. But again, a lovely par 3, which you are punching that ball into the wind, right? And you got to play the shots. And what's really good about Hawtrey is that, you know, as you go from hole to hole, they're not the same, right? You've got to mix around your shots. You've got to have that skill. Number 4 is our stroke index 1, and again put another 40 yards on that. So right throughout the golf course, as I'm talking, you can see tweaks. He certainly made it, I would think, a better golf course now than what it was. That doesn't take from what Norman had to deal with at that time. But you know, as the years evolve, you see different opportunities. But Hawtrey he's a genius. He really is. I'm working with Mr. Trump, who has a huge interest in golf. and people who have played Trump golf courses before, you know, Turnberry, Aberdeen, and the golf courses over in America. Isn't it fantastic to have an owner, developer, a family that's interested in the game of golf? Because when it comes to explaining why we need to sod out an area, why we need to change around greens or bunkers, why we need to add extra supplies, you're really talking to people who understand the game of golf, and so it becomes less of a challenge to get the money.
Which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Circling back to sort of the facilities and the accommodations you touched on earlier, Doonbeg is not your traditional hotel in terms of hotel rooms and that sort of thing. Share a little bit about what those who come and stay here will find as far as the type of accommodations.
Yeah, I mean, you could not describe it as a typical hotel, as in the one up, one down, one beside each other. It doesn't. It's not that kind of a hotel. I would prefer to describe our accommodations as residences. You know, where you have the living space, and you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 bedroom suites. So you have the centered living space, right? And then you either have 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms rolling off that, which are all private en suite, but they're ideal for groups or families traveling together. I mean, you've got 8 guys, they want a twin share, then you have an opportunity to have 8 guys in the one room. You have the kitchen, you have the living area. And I mean, great, you know, they can have their golf, they can have something to eat, go back to the suite, have a few beers, maybe have a game of cards, or whatever it is that they want to do. Ideal for families or groups traveling together, right? And in terms of the luxury, the beds, the linens, we spent a lot of time on that when we started off with this property. We had an interior designer, Jackie Lanham, who was involved with the architect back at that time, John Haley. Jackie's from Atlanta. Again, if I was to describe Hawtrey as a genius on the golf course, when it came to interior design, and you could see around here, Daniel, yourself, she did a fantastic job of that too. But more importantly, the humility, the expertise, working with these folks, they were a joy to work with. And while they do the job, you end up learning a huge amount from them. And I think that's very, very important. So as a steward of these premises and of this golf course, you know, since they've all departed and, you know, moved on and to other projects, my objective is to try and maintain the integrity of what they've done, both in the suites and also in the public areas and the members' areas that we have around the place.
You mentioned earlier, you know, families who come and so forth, and the golf travel business has evolved quite a bit, as you have no doubt seen. And we're finding that there's more and more trips that involve couples and families and so forth, where the trip may not be golf every single day, bang, 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 from one course to the next, but instead adding in some activities off the course. We've always said that the best trips are comprised of an equal measure of both. Talk about some of the offerings here at Doonbeg that may not just involve golf.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to you about on-site and off-site, but I mean, 40% of our business would probably be golf-related, which underscores the amount of activity then that is available for the non-golfer or family members who are accompanying the golfer, so to speak. I mean, it was fantastic last year. We had 3 generations staying here, right? And Grandma was actually paying the bill. And it was fantastic to walk in the morning to see, you know, the children having breakfast with the grandparents and the parents being there also, and the mums and dads were all brothers and sisters, but everybody coming together. But as soon as they left breakfast, some were going to play golf. They were either playing here or playing a neighbouring golf course like the Hincher Valley one. But other members of the family were staying on site, going to our junior clubhouse, which we have on the site also, which has the pool table, the arts and crafts for the children, you know, which has the games, you know, on the occasional time when it rains here in Ireland. That's a place for some people to go. But we've got falconry, we've got horse riding on the beach, they can take the bicycles. So there's plenty to do with the little go-karts as well for the younger children, so to speak. But there's always something to do, and you know, given the weather we have, it's important that we have an opportunity to enjoy yourself inside, but most importantly then when the weather is great, to get out. That fresh air, breeze coming off the Atlantic Ocean, I mean, it's just a joy to get that into the nostrils, so to speak. So even the children going along the beach or whatever, it's amazing how they develop an appetite after coming in off the beach. You know, an hour out there, it's just lovely with their parents. So that's really on site. We have our shebeen on site, and you know, groups can book our shebeen. And the shebeen is an old Irish cottage which was owned by one of the previous landowners, right? There is no electricity or running water in our shebeen, right? There's a peat fire that's burning on the right hand side as you walk in the door. We can have a pot of stew on the fire. We have the Shanachie, and the Shanachie is an old Irish storyteller, right? And Pat Ahern, who's down in the village, comes up and he tells all the stories. We have the Irish musicians, we have the dancer in there, right? And people can come down as a group and say, have the pot of stew, have a whiskey, a beer, and then later on that evening, we have a local gentleman that comes in, Tony Pender comes in with the fresh mackerel, puts it on the pan. Perfect, right? And that is how life was, maybe 100 years ago. But it's hugely enjoyed by groups who come through here. And that's on the site. As we move off the site, we have 3 courtesy shuttles that take people down to the village. When people are in residence here, we really don't want them getting back into their own cars, having to worry about the roads, the journey. So we take our guests down to the local village, down to Morrissey's, Comerford's, Tuberley's, go down and meet the locals, have something to eat down there, go across to one of the pubs. There might be a sing-song going on there, you might be asked to sing a song, or whatever it is. Go down and meet the locals. And what's really, really important about our business here is that the local community both work here. We have moms and dads, we have boys and girls, sons and daughters working here also. But again, there's a huge integration that goes on between ourselves and the local community. They're all tourism ambassadors for our business, and we all work together in terms of the amount of money, that's in terms of payroll that goes into the local community, services and supplies. It's massive. And then as you move further out from Doonbeg, you've got the Cliffs of Moher, you've got Loop Head, right? You've got the Alby Caves, you've got the Burn. Now I'm from Tipperary, which is a neighbouring county, and it's hard for me to say this, right? But my God, Clare has it all going on when it comes to tourism. Absolutely fantastic, right? 4 castles, 10 golf courses. Shannon Airport, you fly into Shannon, less than an hour you're out to Doonbeg, right? So people are getting on flights, let's say, 7:30 at night time, maybe 10 o'clock at night time over in the States, 5 hour, 5.5 hour. They're coming in having breakfast here, the occasional pint of breakfast, but then they're teeing off at 8, 9 a.m. here in the morning. Fantastic. They haven't even went to bed yet, maybe had a snooze on the plane. But it's just great, they can make the fullness of their day then before they retire in the early evening.
H&B has had a very long-standing relationship with Doonbeg, and you've no doubt known many through the years amongst our staff and our members of the forces and so forth. Your impressions of the H&B traveler and those who are coming over as a member of our forces, as we call them?
Typically, there seems to be a huge focus on quality. Very, very sophisticated traveller. That's what we see coming through H&B. So while we don't ever differentiate between our guests as they come through, we know an H&B traveller when they come through, and we can see it on our systems. We ensure that the rooms that they're in are going to be our better rooms. We ensure that when they go out onto the golf course, that the caddies that are out there, they're caddies that are seasoned professionals, right? I suppose most importantly, given the relationship that we've had over the years, is to ensure that our partnership with H&B remains strong. We would never ever want to compromise that. We would always want to ensure that we keep the level of service that you give to your clients, we give to you and to your clients also. And hopefully as time moves on, we can continue to welcome your guests. Finest of hospitality.
We'll look forward to it.
Thanks
again, Jeff.
Thank you. Cheers.
And a special thanks once again to Joe Russell for joining us today and for hosting us here at Doonbeg. If you'd like to keep up with all things with the resort, as usual, we suggest giving them a follow on their social media channels. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thanks as always for tuning in. We'll have another one here for you soon. But until then, we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.